Last week, Minister, a man in his 80th year from Wexford, Sean Hayes, pulled his own teeth, having contacted 7 dentists in Wexford, as well as the primary care centre at Grogan's Road, and they all said they could do nothing for him. He said on local radio that he blames the government, not the dentists. So I'm asking the Minister for Health what provisions his department is taking to provide emergency dental cover for adult medical card holders unable to access a dental service due to the current oral health care crisis. And if you can make
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thanks very much, Deputy. And the situation that you've described is not an acceptable situation. Everybody who has a medical card needs to be able to access a dentist under the Dental Treatment Service Scheme. I think, as you have quite rightly identified, the number of dentists participating on the scheme has fallen. It's fallen very substantially over the last 2 years in particular. There's been a precipitous drop from 2019, 2021 into this year. I've looked at the figures for your own county, and that is seen in Wexford as well. Unfortunately, the majority of dentists who were on the scheme just 3 years ago, just before COVID, are no longer on the scheme, and that's causing huge pressure in terms of people in Wexford who have medical cards trying to find a dentist who is on the scheme. So what are we doing? There is a longer term solution to this, which is a root and branch reform of the dental treatment scheme. That's something that the Department of Health is engaging with the representative body, the IDA, on. But that's not enough, because it's going to take time for that kind of scheme to be negotiated and implemented. So in the meantime, for this year, I've allocated a very significant amount of extra money. So the forecast spend for this year would have been about €40 million for the scheme. We've increased that from 40 million to 66 million. So we've increased the amount of funding into it by more than a half. And what that has meant is 2 things. It's meant that there are services available, scale and polish, which had been removed from the scheme, which we've added back to the scheme. But more importantly for the dentists, the fees that we're paying have dramatically increased. And what we would like to see, and what I would ask the dentists to do, is to re-engage with the scheme. We've many dentists around the country, indeed in Wexford, who've been involved in the scheme for many years. The fees are now substantially higher, and I would ask those dentists to re-engage and stay with us while we negotiate a permanent new scheme.
Minister, I'd say substantially higher would be somewhat of an exaggeration. The question I actually asked you was what you were doing about access to emergency services. An 80-year-old man whose wife died a couple of years ago, and also his son. It is in no way reflective of 21 billion that we put into in order to have a first world health service. As Sean himself says, a third world health service. And I think that's what somebody of 80 years of age, who worked all his life, paid tax all his life, having to pull 4 of his own teeth, certainly doesn't instill confidence. I'm not sure if he was here today that he would have been voting for the government in the no confidence motion. And they're his words on local radio in Wexford. An 80-year-old man pulling 4 of his own teeth.
Thank you.
No emergency service,
Deputy
Minister.
please.
Thank you, Deputy. What can happen in an emergency situation is anybody should get in touch with the HSC. Now, they'll do several things. The first thing they'll do is they will contact dentists who are on the scheme in the area, and they will try to arrange emergency care or try to arrange an emergency visit. In an extreme situation, the care can be provided directly by a HSC dentist. However, there's a very limited number of HSC dentists, and they're spending most of their time treating children, for example. So that's the direct answer in terms of emergency care. You come from a commercial background. I think if you saw an organisation that had an increase in its revenue of over 50% in 1 year, if you saw revenue for going into an organisation going from 40 million to 66 million, I think in fairness, Deputy, you would call that a substantial increase, right? So let's not just dismiss an increase in funding in 1 year from 40 million to 66 million.
Before you're finished waffling, Minister, let me tell you what your last PQ said from the HSE in relation to emergency services. The HSE is not resourced to provide treatment to adults and does not have the capacity to do so. PQ 28024 received a month ago. So clearly, Minister, what you've just told me about the HSE is a load of rubbish, and you haven't a clue. But a man pulling 4 of his own teeth, having paid tax in this country all his life, is criminal. Absolutely criminal, and you can't defend it, nor can you give me the answer as to where the next 8-year-old is supposed to go, rather than pull their own teeth. So unfortunately, it's not the 66 million we're discussing, it's the fact that we don't have emergency services for adults in Wexford, and you are not aware of it.
Minister.
The only person waffling here, Deputy, is you. You've dismissed a massive increase. You've said that an increase from 40 million to 66 million is not substantial. Nonsense. The only person talking rubbish here right now is you. You don't even have the courtesy to let other people in this chamber speak. We all just have to listen to your nonsense, your waffle, and your insults. I've just answered the questions. And by the way, you just described the Irish healthcare system as a third world healthcare system. I wonder how many third world healthcare systems, and you've repeated it in here. I wonder how many third world healthcare systems you've been in. What an insult from you as an elected member to come in here. What an insult to all of the dentists, all of the doctors, to all of the nurses. So what we'll do, while you waffle, is we'll fix the problem.
Deputy Michael